Welcome to Torah Smash, the podcast for nerdy Jews, where our lives of Jewish learning collide with our love of nerd culture. In each episode, we discuss what we lovingly call a Torah Smash, which we have defined as a beautiful collision of one thing from the world of Judaism with another from nerd culture. I'm Ethan Lane Miller, and joining me today are
Barack Malkin.
RDY.
just us today.
Just the three of us.
Yeah, last podcast, we were doubled in size.
It was crowded.
It was tough to fit us all in the Zoom room.
It was jam-packed.
Oh, was that a fish joke?
It was.
All right. Well, today,
Like sardines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another type of fish.
It is.
we have to start tuna-ing these out.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, great. I got the nod to continue. I was pondering what's a topic that we haven't done, because obviously I want to do a topic we haven't done. What's something that's I think could lead to some interesting discussions. And I started thinking of Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, because what I've realized is, and maybe this is just me, I typically tend to think of them on an individual basis. And thinking of this podcast, I began to think of them together as like a team, as a unit, as like the three of them together. I wanted to start by asking, is that just me, or have you ever really sat and really considered the three of them as a family unit, as a team working together?
Man, if we're about to do Three Amigos, I'm so excited.
Oh, my God.
I don't want to disappoint you that much.
No, I think I really view them as singular entities each time. Like Aaron, I think I always associate with Moses, but Moses and Miriam, my mind isolates.
Well, that's interesting. For me, it's both. Like, I have definitely thought of them on their own, probably as much as I have thought of them as siblings and a unit, because there are times when they each rely on the other in different ways, and sometimes they're all together. And I think especially of like Numbers chapter 12, where they're like in this one scene of like getting scolded by God, and it's like siblings and the parent of all parents just like yelling at two of them, and do you see what you did to your brother? It's like,
I learned it from
very
watching you, Dad.
Would have landed well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I really began to play with this idea of them together as a team, and it led me into a nerdy topic. Would you care to venture a guess as to what that nerdy topic is?
Animaniacs.
Ooh, I like it.
Oh, great guess.
So,
I was just thinking like superhero teams.
You're close.
The Wonder Twins?
No.
There's three of them here. Are there three Wonder Twins?
Gleek? No. There can't be three twins.
I'm a little more broad on the nerdy topic.
Oh,
No,
what?
it's not that
Ethan's
bad.
more broad.
It's not that bad.
Things that come in threes?
sidekicks.
Not that broad?
Sidekicks.
Barack is close also.
The Three Amigos and Animaniacs not being two of my best guesses for this one.
Those were amazing guesses.
Those are
So-
great guesses. You got
So
to
let
change
me give you a little more fuel. So one of the things that I liked thinking about the three of them together is, particularly thinking about Moses and Aaron, is thinking about the ways that Aaron's strengths, or his things he was comfortable with, helped cover or provide support for the areas where Moses was not strong or did not feel as strong.
Tripods.
Like for cameras.
Like War
Yeah.
of the Worlds?
You're thinking of tripods. Just tripods. The
Yeah,
things
yeah,
where one supports the other, one's lacking.
I need you to know RDY had the most serious look on his face as he was prepared to give this answer. Honestly, I'm thinking of like teams or parties, either in terms of superhero teams, in terms of RPG parties.
We both said that, just
yeah,
in
we
different
pretty
ways.
much did. Yeah.
That's why I said you were close.
I'm calling foul.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
would
I
say
really,
superheroes and sidekicks and superhero teams both like covered that.
all right, write in and tell me if you I was being too harsh on them.
Write to torasmash@gmail.com to submit your vote for who is right.
So I really began to fall into this idea of like, okay, the three of them all have, some different strengths and different things. Moses seems to be the leader of the party. Sometimes the party gets split and makes some mistakes. So Aaron, when he's on his own, and as I was researching this, I was finding some different interpretations as to how involved he was in the golden calf incident, where it was either he was directly involved or he somehow was able to kind of push the blame off on some of the general Israelites, but seems to be agreed he was there. He had some amount of a hand in it. And then Miriam is talked about, not necessarily, and Artie, I'd love to hear some more, perhaps some things that you've read about. Like, she's present, she's also a prophet. She obviously is very involved in Moses's origin story, but is also a pretty important person in terms of like leading, particularly the Israelite women on their 40-year trek, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of the first question I have is, are there other teams or parties in Jewish history that you can think of that exist on a level similar to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam?
Can I wait before we do this? Can I pause us and say, just for my friend Jason, can we give a little more background on the connections between Moses, Aaron, and Miriam so that people can understand the connections that we're going to be making?
So Moses, if you don't know who Moses is, then why are you listening to a podcast that has Torah in the title?
Because they
Moses
want to
has-
know who he is.
Yeah.
For Jason and anyone who is not biblically literate enough to know who Moses, Miriam, and Aaron are, Moses is the person for whom the Torah is named, 5 books of Moses. He's the person who leads the Israelites out of Egypt with God's help. And he is the person who leads them through the desert in their 40 years and then hands off the mantle to his apprentice Joshua. He has 2 older siblings, Aaron and Miriam. And Aaron and Miriam are technically slaves when he meets them as an older person. But Miriam, when Moses is born, follows Moses along the river through the reeds. And when Pharaoh's daughter pulls Moses out of the water, Miriam jumps out. She's not named at this point, but she jumps out and she says, "Oh, it's a Hebrew baby. I can find a Hebrew nursemaid." And Miriam actually brings in her and Moses's own mother to be his nursemaid. Not only do they get to save Moses by having Pharaoh's daughter raise him, but they get wages from Pharaoh's household and presumably housed there. Oh, and Aaron in particular is singled out by God as the person who will speak for Moses because Moses is embarrassed that he is slow of speech and tongue.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So the question was, are there other Jewish teams or parties or superheroes that you can think of that feature a kind of natural puzzle piecing of supporting each other's weaknesses or strengths?
I think about the 12 tribes, from also from the Bible. These are all brothers and a couple of nephews who get tribes named after them. Joseph doesn't get a tribe. His sons Manasseh and Ephraim each get their own, and Levi doesn't get a tribe because he gets 10% of everyone else's earnings. So, 12 tribes made from 12 brothers, and Dina doesn't get one because misogyny.
Did the 12 tribes
But-
have different like traits or strengths or focuses?
Yeah. And at the end of Exodus, Jacob actually blesses his children in a way that kind of points out all of their personalities and strengths and weaknesses. And at the end of Deuteronomy, when the lands are doled out to the different tribes who are all descendants of these 12 brothers, the geographic areas that they are placed in fit the personality because, the one who's way out to sea metaphorically is on the port part of the land of Canaan, and the one who's the tremendous hunter is in a really lush hunting grounds part of the land of Canaan. So they are matched, and people who know the geography and can interpret the poetry better than I can have pointed this out.
Nice.
I'm struggling with this
Yeah.
question because when I'm asked about Jewish superheroes, it's isolated, and I'll think of things like Moses, right? And so to find other groups of superheroes, I'm thinking I have to think of the individuals I've thought of in the past and see if there's a group of people that exist. So I don't know the full story of the details, but perhaps Noah as like a Aquaman-ish type figure and collecting the
Yeah.
animals, like maybe the family members had these balanced traits to help with what was going on with the flood and the ark and the animals and such, but I don't know enough about them to think that it's a good example.
We don't get a lot of the gritty details of what happens on that arc.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
it's
stinky.
yeah. I'm glad you brought it up because Barack, I also was naturally kind of thinking of Noah as the other one, where we don't really get to see or I guess read a lot of it directly, but you have to assume there was a lot of teamwork in, pun intended, keeping the ark afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that comes up for me Jewishly are the zugot. So a zug, it means pair, and zugot is plural. And this word, this saying just hazugot, the pairs, refers to generations of leaders in and around the Talmudic era that where one of them would have been the head of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish court, and the other one would have been head of the yeshiva, the Jewish school. And they worked in tandem where they're both leaders of the community, but they were known as pairs because one of them couldn't do both on his own, but together they were able to not only bring up great Jewish leaders and scholars, but put their minds to use in the Sanhedrin.
I also thought, and we can question if two people constitutes a team or an adventuring party, but
Yeah.
I really thought of Jacob and Esau, who don't immediately get along, but they're two people who have different strengths and different interests. They definitely have conflict, but big part of the story is how they eventually reconcile. They're not necessarily working together on a team at that point.
I kind of
I
disagree.
and it's like a
Please.
supervillain arch nemesis kind of situation.
And yet the arch villain is actually Jacob. Because even though Esau says I'm going to kill you when they're kids and then they don't see each other for a long time, when they do see each other, Esau is fine. He's done well for himself. He doesn't need his birthright. He doesn't need his blessing. He's made a good living. He's got people. And 400 people are marching towards Jacob with Esau. And Jacob is freaking out. He's still the young kid. He doesn't know how to deal with his brother. And his brother's like, "Hey, we're both doing great. Let's go off to Seir together." And Jacob's like, "Yeah, sure. I'll see you in Seir, but you go ahead." And then Jacob turns the other way and takes his family to Sukkot. So,
Well,
yes,
that's
they
yeah.
do get together again, but they don't really reconcile.
I like
Esau
it's
has reconciled.
like a Superman
Mm.
Lex Luthor situation, right? There is this like want from one side to connect or reconnect, and maybe there's something underneath if you go back to the origins of Lex Luthor and Superman.
Yeah, that's a great smash.
But like
Yeah.
they're still they're not a pair in a good way. The other when I'm thinking of superheroes of the
Sorry, before you go on,
yeah.
I just want to compliment you, Barack, because you have made a
Mm,
smash within a smash.
Yeah.
thank you.
I don't know if that's the first time we've done that, but that was beautiful.
um and in Smash Gen, it doesn't work. Um, the other hero I'm thinking of is Esther, and so her pair would be Mordecai, and I don't know if there's a third in that story that would quantify or to create this as a team, but they're another duo where one is definitely balancing for the other in terms of helping them push outside of their boundaries. But it doesn't work the reverse in that really like Mordecai pushes Esther. Esther doesn't really push back to Mordecai in some way to encourage him. Mordecai is more pushing and encouraging Esther.
But she's got the power that he doesn't have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's the only other pairing I can think of when I'm thinking of other quote Jewish superheroes from Torah or Jewish stories. A lot of them are isolated and they don't have
Yeah,
another counterpart. Like most of the stories are individual. That's why Moses, I never think of Moses as like a group, as part of a group. So I don't know if I'm missing something in other people's stories that I haven't even considered.
Yeah.
there are Jewish hero teams like the Jewish Hero Corps, which was a one-issue comic book that promised more comic books that never came. Not very good. Like it's
We
very
talked about them
schmaltzy, cheesy writing. Yeah.
on our top five Jewish character countdown.
Yeah. And I named them as one of my top five just because I thought it was something people should know about, not
Yeah.
because they're actually good.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
I can't think of did you have other groups, Ethan?
No, I mean, I thought
Okay.
of Noah and the Ark, and then I shared about Jacob and Esau, but
Yeah.
it's hard because there's a lot of like duo sort of stories, but I found it challenging to think of like a real like multi-purpose Jewish Avengers, so to speak.
Do the daughters of Zelophehad have different
Oh, good
characteristics?
one.
Do they have different traits, or is it? I remember one sister speaking up for the group.
That's how it was, but it's still a
Yeah,
good one because they're a unit who stands up for feminism in a way that we don't usually see
yeah,
in these misogynist works.
yeah.
I think in real life, there are plenty of Jewish superhero teams who work at summer camps, who work at day camps, who work at day schools. These people are absolutely superheroes to the kids that they work with, and they will deny it possibly, but the kids who think they're superheroes are 100% correct.
Well, I would say this falls under Ethan's as long as those people work together well and support each other properly.
Well, and I'll say that you're jumping ahead to different questions that I had. I was going to ask, where do we see these sort of superhero teams in modern Jewish life? And
Mm.
I very much thought about the camp that I run because it's not just me and it's not just the counselors, it's the facilities team, it's the grounds team, it's HR who ensures everything gets done. Like there's so many people who go into making camp happen, just as the same for what goes into making synagogue life happen. It's so much more than here's the Torah, here's the rabbi, have at it.
Yeah, when
It
RDY
depends
said,
on the congregation.
yeah, when RDY said the tripod, the thing that came to mind for me, and we're working with congregations, is the pairing of the congregational president, the clergy, and the executive director, covering the three different areas of the synagogue that need to be sort of covered, and that's what always comes to mind to me. So then, often those people have very different skills and traits usually as well that help when they work together really well. It shows.
I talk about that trio as well when I'm working with different synagogues. But I say synagogue staff, synagogue clergy, and synagogue board. So
Hmm.
you've mentioned like the head of each of these groups, and it's
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But I talk about also how they're the heart, body, and brains of the organization, with the board being the brains, the staff being the body, and the clergy being the heart, and like all of them have a piece of the other, and none of them works independently. That's my metaphor, and like all metaphors, it's flawed, but
Yeah.
And I've met some boards who maybe don't deserve the brain category.
yeah, and that's heavy on the supposed to be.
Yeah, got it. Another topic that I think comes up a lot on the nerd side of thing is the guy in the chair.
Mhm.
Mm.
So the dude who's in the background but is playing an indispensable part in the superhero team.
That's the executive director of any congregation.
Ooh, okay.
They're literally the person in the chair doing the work
Yeah.
at the computer, making sure
Are
that
we allowed?
the
Are we
trains are
allowed to
running on
make any
time.
announcements yet?
Yes, yes. My wife is the new executive director for Aleph for the Jewish Renewal Movement. So that's what RDY is referring to. Congratulations,
Yeah, I
Michelle.
think
Yeah. Yay, Michelle.
I think there's a difference between executive directors and like CEOs and like what exactly the organization is. Because like when I think about my CEO, it's a very public facing role. And when I think of like the guy in the chair stereotype, they're very
Mm,
much the shy away
mm.
from the limelight sort of situation. So I've met different synagogue executive directors, some who enjoy being front, and then some who really shy away from the limelight.
I have the Jewish for that one that I both really like and really don't like.
Oh, please.
And the answer is God.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Wow. I also like and don't like that.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
Hundred like doesn't want the limelight, but is doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
There's also the need to thank people and how important it is to say to show your your staff that they are appreciated. And so I make it a point to say thank you to people as often as I remember. And thanking the executive director, I think, is a huge deal because there are things that they do daily for which they should be thanked. And there's your other God metaphor. Like God needs, quote unquote, all this praise, or maybe quote unquote desires it, but we certainly need to lavish said praise.
Somebody had said to me once that the executive director was sort of like the oxygen of the synagogue, that when it's there, everybody just doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't recognize that it's happening. It exists. And of course it exists. Why wouldn't it exist? And as soon as there's something that is off or it's missing, everybody recognizes and there's sort of blame to go around of like, why is the oxygen bad? What happened to the oxygen level?
Or
Cool.
or even worse, when it's tainted just a little bit, and it's a slow,
Hmm.
like carbon monoxide, to continue your metaphor,
Yeah.
where like it's a really slow realization and then it all just kind of goes to sleep.
Yeah.
I've witnessed.
Yeah. But we don't know anyone like that.
Mm.
No way. We never. I think that also, and forgive me if this comes out as political, I don't mean it as such, but the IDF soldiers who go into harm's way and in order to protect, soldiers don't care whether they're protecting Jewish Israelis or Palestinian Israelis or Christian Israelis. They just are going into where there's danger so that the people who are not trained for it don't have to.
I might argue that that's one of the entities of the superhero team because there's not though Israeli soldiers are trained as a unit, right? And so
Mhm.
they are not balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses. I think maybe there's people with different roles, but I might think that like there's an intelligence officer or there's sergeants or other people in charge in the Israeli terms of those positions that are creating that party. But I'm gonna
Wait,
broaden
and you
us.
don't think those roles support each other?
They do, but I don't think that they're
Oh,
all
okay.
within the split unit. I think pulling it
Oh,
back even further, though, you're welcome, Ethan. I know you appreciate that. Is the idea that in a very well functioning team, there needs to be differences of opinions, differences of experiences, and differences of thought for it to be a very strong functioning team. And so the idea that Moses, Aaron, and Miriam all clearly different roles, different experiences, different professional and personal backgrounds. It's one of the things that make them work so well together. And so I also think that really strong superhero teams or pairs or trios or whatever are very strong when there is a really vast difference of background and thought and experiences. So like,
yeah.
right, the DC trinity of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they are a very strong team because they are not coming from anywhere of the same background or experiences at all. Or similarly with the, Avengers Prime of Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, very different backgrounds, very different experiences. And you can expand both of those teams out to the larger Justice League or full Avengers team. There's extremely rarely are there two people on those large teams that have very similar backgrounds and experiences. Extremely rarely. And I think that's one of the reasons they work so well is there's such a variety of personalities and experiences and expertise. That's why I think Moses, Aaron, and Miriam are so strong is because they support one another in their, as you said, in like their missing pieces as these other very strong superhero teams do.
Yeah.
That was great, Barack.
Yep. I also want to point out when we're talking about Moses, Miriam, and Aaron, Moses has tons and tons of scenes written about him and the things he's doing. Miriam only appears in the Torah 4 times, and all 4 times are somehow related to water. The first time I mentioned she's in the Nile following her brother. The second time she appears is at the splitting of the sea. So they're marching through, and she's, I think, Ethan, you mentioned leading them in song. The third time is the scene that I mentioned, Numbers 12, where Miriam and Aaron complain kind of unjustly about Moses, kind of justly, but God is not having it and punishes them. But they make Miriam wait outside the camp and they don't march on. So it's not directly related to water, but the fourth time indicates that maybe it is related to water, because the fourth time is her death. And it says Miriam died I believe in Kadesh, and was buried there. And the very next statement is, and the community was without water.
Mm.
So the community, when she dies and the community is without water, that's what brings about the midrash of Miriam's well, which is where, Moses struck the rock, but the well that was created followed Miriam around. And so when she was being punished and had to wait outside camp, the reason the camp didn't move along without her the way they would normally move along when someone was healing from tzara'at, which was the disease she had, they waited because she had the water. So they had to be there. So like that's her superpower, is water. And with Aaron, it's kind of speech and leadership. Aaron is singled out by God as the one who will speak for Moses. So the understanding is that all of those times in the Torah where it says, and Moses said to the Israelites, it's really Aaron saying it to the Israelites on behalf of Moses. And then Aaron also has that symbolic staff that sprouts with almonds when all the other leaders come up with their staffs, because he is anointed as the high priest.
So let me ask you this question. I don't know if you had this, Ethan. Sorry.
No, y'all have done a great job of
If
getting to all my questions. This is great.
if we were to give different superheroes to these three people, I feel like we've assigned Moses Superman,
For sure.
and it feels like we can't change that. I have my thoughts for Miriam and Aaron based on this conversation. Vastly different scenarios, but curious who you guys might assign Miriam and Aaron.
Are we limiting ourselves to DC?
Nope.
No.
So I guess there's a couple ways to take it, because like with Miriam, there's the water. So like you could go like an elemental sort of thing.
Like Mira. Sorry,
Mira.
Mira's Aquaman's part of Aquaman's group. So not really elemental, but like she can control that sort of element of water.
Mm.
If we don't want to gender her and give her Aquaman, we can give her Mira, which fits nice with Miriam.
Yeah.
Miriam.
Yeah. I was thinking Black Canary for Miriam, because she uses sound as her power, and Miriam leads them in music.
Oh, I see what you. In terms of sound, I actually was gonna give Aaron Black Bolt from the Inhumans.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right,
But
because
Black Bolt doesn't speak.
he doesn't, but when he does, it's powerful.
That's neat.
Right?
That's really neat. That's real. I was thinking more like Cyclops.
So I have a very limited, or I should say, compared to y'all, I don't feel like I have the same grasp on superheroes, at least from the comics. But I also was thinking Cyclops as like the somewhat de facto spokesperson, not necessarily the leader, but the one who is typically the one who's putting himself up front and center.
He's front and center, and Professor X is obviously the leader of the X-Men, but Cyclops is the one out front, which is exactly what I was thinking.
Oh, interesting. I'll take that one. Yeah. All right, cool. I was just curious.
Yeah. All right. So I asked if you had a favorite kind of Jewish team. Do you have a favorite nerdy team?
Oh, man.
I mean, I know what mine is.
What's yours?
Oh, I can answer. Yeah.
It's Crew the Enterprise D.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I could have given you that one.
Yeah, sorry.
You got to let me think for a hot second. I would throw in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
All of my answers are so basic because I'm like Avengers, X-Men, Justice League,
Fantastic Four.
Ethan picked Star Trek, so you can be as basic as you want.
I think the Harlem Globetrotters are a fantastic nerdy team.
Oh, that's good. That's real good.
Super
Artie,
Mario.
have you heard of the Savannah Bananas?
No.
They are and this is not doing them justice, but they are essentially the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. And I got to see
Oh,
them last fall, and it was honestly a life-changing experience.
that's fun.
I recommend it. I know you're not into the sports ball, but it is a real good time.
Yeah, I'm not into the sports ball, but like going to something like the Harlem Globetrotters is not watching sports ball. It's watching a show.
Mm.
And in a way that like I heard someone say recently, life's too short to waste watching baseball. And like
Oh,
which I love. Um, but
oh,
I yeah, I'm gonna modify that at some point, I'm sure. But I think it's different when they are intentionally goofing around and juggling and doing tricks with the ball and the hoop and all the things. It's a different experience. Natalie took me to a Harlem Globetrotter game for like a birthday or anniversary many years ago, and it was so much fun. I highly recommend it.
all right, RDY. I do highly recommend the Savannah Bananas.
Awesome.
Um,
Next time I'm in Georgia.
They tour. I saw them in Austin.
I was gonna add the Mario Brothers to the list of
I like it.
yeah. Right. If I don't want to just give the typical superhero teams like RDY went through his list.
I don't want to give lame answers like RDY did.
It's not a lame answer. They're low hanging fruit. I'm trying to think of
Yeah.
the harder to reach ones, which is hard when the entire world is an option. The whole
Yeah.
universe is an option. Ooh. The the trio that faces up against Wesley in The Princess Bride.
When he's the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yes. I like that. That's a wonderful trio of different people. Yeah, that's great. Not
I
heroes
like that.
necessarily.
But but yeah, they are, I mean, two of them become heroes.
Yeah.
How about the Stranger Things kids?
Oh,
Yeah, I'll buy that. I like that. I haven't seen this is coming out if we are recording the first week of January, coming out mid-January. Sorry, coming out end of January. So I'm sure by the time I've listened to this, I've seen the whole rest of the series, but I have not yet watched the rest of the series.
It is pretty good. There was some panning done, but I happen to like it a lot. There was a little bit of a Lord of the Rings ending that I could have
Mm.
taken two fewer of, but it was great.
Sure, sure. I'm trying to think of other fun like these aren't like big popular groups. I really like the movie Bolt, the animated movie about the dog who's like
Yeah,
very
that's
and because I
fun.
love the hamster Rhino, so like Bolt the superhero, I forget the name of the kitten, um, who like is so skeptical about them and becomes a supporter, and Rhino who's just like full on, you got this.
I'll throw out Commander Shepard and the crew of the Normandy. It's Mass Effect.
It, oh, I don't know that one either.
Cool. All right.
No, I think you know, I think there is great power in getting together with people who help you use all of your strength and
I got
fill
one.
in the spaces that you can't do on your own. Go, Barack.
The hosts of Torah Smash.
Oh,
Hey!
Chef's kiss right there.
that was good.
That'll do it for this week's episode.
Yeah, I should just stop it there. Yeah, look, I completely agree. Like when I think about workplaces, places I've worked, and the ones that I've gotten the most personal and professional joy, like those two have been really checked off, have been the ones where I've been on a team where we all have different strengths, and yet we're all still supporting each other in a really strong, meaningful way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. That'll do it for this episode of Torah Smash. Our fiscal sponsor is Jewish Creativity International. Our theme music was created by Sean Fogel. You can check out Sean's bands and studio work at www.thesleepywest.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps others find us and is an excellent way to support the podcast. We want to hear from you and continue today's nerdy discussion. Go to torasmash.com to find where to connect with us online, purchase swag from our store, support us with a donation, find previous episodes, and more. And what do you get when you cross a superhero with the Dead Sea? A Deadpool.
Professor Xavier is his guy in the chair apologized for the terrible pun. But
well, that one hurt a little bit, actually.
Yeah, sorry, that was awful. But